topics and opinions expressed on the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4WN Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4WN Radio.
This is Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. Do you want to live a more fulfilling life? Do you want to live your legacy and achieve your personal, professional, and financial goals? Well, coming up on Divya Parekh's Beyond Confidence, you will hear real stories of leaders, entrepreneurs, and achievers who have stepped into discomfort, shattered their status quo, and are living the life they want. You will learn how relationships are the key to achieving your aspirations and financial goals. Moving your career or business forward does not have to happen at the expense of your personal or family life, or vice versa. Learn more at www.divyaparekh.com, and you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. This is Beyond Confidence, and now here's your host, Divya Parekh.
Good morning, listeners. It's that time of the week, and as you know, I love to be with you. So thank you for being part of our family. And I want to take a moment and thank each and every one of you who have got our books. A couple of them being in my back, The Entrepreneur's Garden, Expert to Influencer. And the reason I'm thankful to you is because partial profits from our book sales go to kiva.org. And because of you, we have been able to help so many entrepreneurs across the globe. Really, really appreciate you helping us out. And as a matter of fact, recently, Kiva.org sent a beautiful story of a global entrepreneur. And what's fascinating is she's part of the village where these loans are given out, and that village has become independent. So folks, isn't that powerful? Where you are part of something bigger, where you're not only learning from the books, we are together helping someone become independent. There's nothing more powerful than that. And also invite you to take a moment and reflect upon who are you going to be helping this month? Just 1 hour of your time. 1 hour of your time with no strings attached, without any expectations. Just go help someone, even if it's being kind to the cashier at the grocery store. Putting yourself in their shoes and thinking, they're standing there whole day long and they're still smiling and handing you those groceries. So have some patience, be kind. If they're taking the time, don't tap on your foot or be looking at your watch or your phone. Give them that smile. And imagine if you can keep on spreading the kindness, all of us together, what this will look like. So without further ado, let's bring on our guest, Dr. Reesa Woolf.
Hello.
Hello, Reesa. How are you today?
I am so happy. You help so many people. I'm really delighted to be with you.
Oh, thank you. So we always begin back at the childhood. Tell us if you remember any moment from your childhood or any event or a person that still stands out for you even today.
I come from a family that was very active in the community. My uncle, my father, most people in my family were speakers. They stood on stages, they led events. So it was real normal for me to see people on stages. Although the first time I had to speak in public was in high school. And I said to my dad, how do you not be afraid? And he was a singer. He used to sing at people's weddings, even though that was his hobby. And he said, well, I know I have the best voice in the room. And that stuck with me because now I train people to speak at their meetings and on stages. And I tell them there might be people in your audience that have more money than you or have fancier titles than you. But at that moment, you have information they need. So you can eliminate your public speaking fear.
Very true. So what were your interests when you were in high school?
In high school, I was interested in leaving my hometown. To tell you the truth, I saw that the world was interesting and my world wasn't. And in fact, from college on, pretty much I have pursued my bucket list, things that I thought were interesting. And I actually made that a priority. I did work that was fairly easy for me, which is teaching and training people the things that I knew. And I taught for a seminar company and taught management skills and public speaking, but it didn't take away from me doing my fun. So I've kind of had a backward life. I kind of retired first, and now I'm giving what I've learned over the years to the whole world.
That's very wonderful for you, because so many people are always thinking, I gotta wait for those golden years to do what I want to do. And what I've also found is that if you're doing what you love to do, you're having retirement even during the day, every single day. Yes, it's fraught with tensions. Yes, it's fraught with challenges. And yet it's exhilarating and so stimulating that you can love your life even in the midst of those turbulences and being on a roller coaster. Because we do say that, like, people pay to go on roller coasters and shout and experience that. So similarly, why not bring that to your life as well? So while you were in college, tell us, like, what was your interest? What did you graduate in? What was your primary focus?
The biggest thing for me was in my freshman year, I took a psychology course, and they talked about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that triangle. And they introduced me to the idea of self-actualization, which is the highest thing you can do. It's using the skills and natural talents that you have and enjoy, and actually making your living from that. And I thought, I think I'll do that. And in fact, that has been the theme my whole life. But I want to tell your listeners how I got to this place of now doing work only that I love. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Oh, good. So what happened is I'm of the generation that they said, well, we appreciate that you're a huge student leader here at the university and you're graduating as one of the outstanding college senior women, but are you going to be a nurse or a teacher? And I became a speech therapist. The first week on the job, I thought, being a speech therapist is good, but not for me. So what I did was...
ask you this. Why was that?
Pardon me?
Let me ask you, why was that?
Oh, I like training and teaching, but when I got in front of adults in my 20s and I taught career counseling, because what I did was, when I realized that speech therapy was lovely, but not for me, I used all of my personal days and vacation that anybody I would meet, if they did anything that I thought was interesting work, I would say, may I visit you at your job and just see what it's all about? Because I knew nothing about anything. So I spent the first 10 years being a speech therapist, visiting people at their jobs. And I got so good at this informational interviewing, people used to offer me jobs. And I thought, I could teach how to do interviews. I could teach how to get a job because I was really good at it. And that's what really launched my career in teaching and training. When I got in front of adults for it was Bell Labs, before AT&T, the moment I was in front of adults teaching them, I thought, oh, this is where I belong. And that's where I've stayed since then. I've worked for the largest and oldest management training skills company. And that enabled me to travel the world on someone else's dime. That was one of the things on my bucket list. How can I travel the world and have someone else pay for it? So pretty much I've been, as I said, the theme of my life has been in pursuit of what I found interesting.
Mm-hmm. And that is very powerful, because as you were pursuing your... Now, let me ask you this. Was it your interest or was it your passion?
Oh, my interest. I didn't have any. The only passion I had was having fun, and I would see something and go, "Oh, I'd like to learn that," and I'd sign up for a class. And it was either work stuff or fun stuff, or I would see a trip to take. I just signed up for everything. I did that hundreds of times. But I just wanted to get back. I didn't really complete the idea of how did I find work that matches me. I took all sorts of different jobs, like lots of things that I thought, well, maybe this is it. Maybe this is it. And on each one, as I kind of got to the end of going, okay, I've learned as much as I can from this job, and I can see this is not a match, I would think, what are the 3 things that I do like about this job that isn't a great match? And then I would tell everyone I know, what kind of work would use, and then I'd say those 3 top things. And then I would take the next job that matched a little bit more of that. And I repeated that. And once I started training adults and working for a seminar company, I did so well in training that I thought, gee, I'm getting all these good evaluations. I think I'll be a keynote speaker at conventions, which I did, and it was fun. But I'll tell you what I like even more. I realized that as fun as it was to be a keynote speaker, I had the skills to make anyone in the room be able to speak on stages. And that's what I do now. Now I train TED Talk speakers. It's really great. And I came across how to eliminate speaking fear, and that's what I've written about lately.
Well, fantastic. So as I'm hearing about your process, what it sounds like is that you did gradual refinement. It was just not in a day, whoop, let me snap my fingers and I'm there. You, even though you did not know your passion, you knew what interested you.
Yes.
So you slowly, it's almost like you had this chisel in your hand and you went through sculpting that piece of whatever we want to call it, piece of granite, piece of whatever it is, that was you, and chiseled out yourself to be where you wanted to be.
Mm-hmm. And I tell you something, I didn't think it was a grand idea. I just went, well, this isn't working. Oh, that's better. Let me do that. I literally, personally and professionally, when I would see something better, I would go, oh, I want that. I led a very extremely sheltered life from a teeny tiny small town with very little thoughts. And I realized in college, oh, there's this whole other great bunch of stuff in the world. I want to do that. And pretty much that's what did it. It wasn't a grand plan. I wasn't enlightened. I just pretty much pursued what was more pleasing. And that's what did it.
So tell us your journey from, like, what was it about teaching others to become better speakers than being a keynote speaker? What changed there?
There is a special kind of joy in watching someone, people come to me and they say, how come I can speak so well one-to-one, but I have this new job or I have this big talk coming up, and I'm so terrified in front of large groups. I see who they could be. And I also, after 25 years, know what the typical things are that make people crazy and hold them back and how to fix those. I have a doctorate in psychology. There's a special kind of joy in helping someone who has potential take away the stuff that's holding them back, and not covering it over, but eliminating it, because I know how to do that. And then watching them go and achieve. Words can't describe how thrilling it is to be a catalyst in someone's life. That's what you do. We're a catalyst in someone's life, and I bet a lot of your listeners are too.
So listeners, we have the life happening here. The leaf collector guys are here. So you might hear some noise. So Reesa, tell us the transition, how you changed your business from teaching into training people to become speakers.
I guess it all came from when I was working for the seminar company. I was traveling around the world, certainly all over the United States. And some people would say, do you come to companies? Do you do that? And the company I was working for didn't do that. So I would go to their companies, and then just, I guess, word of mouth, people started to find me and say, do you do individual coaching? And I love that. And that's what I've been doing up until now.
So what are the top fears and how people can overcome the public fears?
I would say that when people are fearful of public speaking, I would say the top three reasons are: one, they fear they're going to make a mistake. So here's the answer. When you're with your friends and you say, we're going to meet on Thursday. No, we're going to meet on Wednesday. And you keep talking. Or you say, we're going to meet at 3:00. Oh, no, 3:30. And you keep talking. You notice how you fix it and keep going, and it's no big thing. Do that when you're in front of people. People feel exactly the same way as your friends feel. As long as they leave with accurate information, they're happy. So that's the first one, is when you make mistakes, just correct them and go on. And even in rehearsal, rehearse doing that. Don't go, oh, we'll have to start over, because that's the idea that you can speak perfectly. And there are many things on your job you have to do perfectly, but speaking is never going to be in that category. So rehearse when you make mistakes, fixing them and going on, because when you're in front of the real people, you're not going to go, ooh, let me start over.
Fantastic. So that's one of the fears that keep on going.
Okay,
What
another
other
fear.
fears? What other fears people experience while speaking?
People show up and they have ideas of what they're going to say at the meeting. These are fearful speakers. They have ideas of what they're going to say, but they don't come in with notes. And so pretty much every time they speak, even when they know they're going to speak, they're giving impromptu and spontaneous speeches. That's just silly. This is what I suggest. Even if it's 5 minutes before you show up, just take a sticky note and put an outline and only a few words on each line, 1 or 2 words. And if you're on Zoom, you can just paste it right next to the Zoom camera and you look brilliant. If you're in person, just put it in front of you. And this way you can concentrate on the one idea that you're talking about and not have to think, don't forget to say this, don't forget to say this. So a good idea also, and things that mess people up, is that they come in unprepared. And it takes very little effort to come in and plan what you're going to say. And even if you're not supposed to speak at a meeting, you're just going to attend, you know the agenda, you know what people are going to be talking about. Think ahead. What might they ask me? And then prepare for that ahead of time. In other words, you can't anticipate every question and everything that comes up, but you can certainly anticipate and prepare for a lot of them. And that will make you feel a lot more confident doing it. And after all, you are the expert in that. That's why they're asking. I would say the last thing is this. All humans are nervous, have normal speaking fear the first 5 minutes. It's just part of our DNA and our most primitive brain, that when we stand away from people and all eyes are on us, it's just part of our animal DNA. It's normal speaking fear. And we know, everyone who speaks confidently, that after 5 minutes, I'm going to feel better. People who are fearful, they feel normal speaking fear and they say to themselves, oh, I'm anxious. Oh, I can't believe it. Oh, I'm going to mess it up. And they escalate it. It's not anxiety. So what I do as an antidote, or what I suggest, is that rehearse the first 5 minutes. And that way you can take 5 minutes later, you select, copy, and paste, and do that for the first 5 minutes. Just act as if you're confident. And since you have rehearsed the first 5 minutes, you're prepared to make eye contact. If you're on Zoom, look at the camera, look at someone over here for about 5 seconds, look at someone over here for about 5 seconds, but really get comfortable with that first 5 minutes. And then even if you are never comfortable throughout the whole talk, no one knows it, just act confident. You never actually have to be confident.
Those are very powerful techniques, Reesa. So let me
Thank
ask
you.
you this. What if, let's say, it could be somebody, a professional in a corporate setting, and they're invited, like, oh, we are having an impromptu meeting. You got to speak to the site leadership team. You got to speak on this. So people have, let's say, some idea about what they're going to be speaking on, but if they are they're brought onto the stage, or it could be you are in a networking meeting and you're just called upon and said, you got to speak off the cuff on this topic. So how can you be prepared for that?
The first thing is that all through the week, and in fact, pretty much every day at work, remind yourself who you have become. Many people are fearful because when they were 21 years old and new in the corporate world or new in the work world, they spoke and some mean person made them feel awful or showed them that they were stupid in front of others, and they've never gotten over it. But they're 35 years old now. And I say, well, listen, if that same person showed up at your current workplace and did the exact same thing, what would you do? And they immediately say, oh, I wouldn't put up with it. They would handle it. And so part of getting confident is to remember who you are today. That was a situational issue. That was when you were young and dumb. Of course, people took advantage of you. That's what some humans do on Earth, but not everyone is like that. And so first off, remind yourself, I know what I'm talking about. And if I don't know, I'll say, I'll find that out for you. Joanne, can I send you the email? Would you send it to everyone? So be prepared for for that kind of spontaneous speaking. There are two voices in your head. There's your inner wisdom that knows you're confident and competent, and there's your mean mind that is reminding you of all the awful things that you've done or that you've seen others happen to them. And so make sure that you kind of reaffirm who you are and your value. So when someone calls on you, they know you haven't prepared a talk. I'd suggest that you prepare for impromptu speaking by, working with a friend or colleague and giving each other topics and making each other open with some sentence that buys you time to let your brain give you the first idea. And then whatever occurs in your brain, say that next. Say the next thing as it occurs to you. And when you have no other ideas in your mind, say, and that would handle that. So practice to speaking, asking about what's your favorite vegetable or what's your favorite place to go on vacation. In other words, when we have a belief that I can't speak spontaneously, that's not right and it's not true. So practice just that alone, and then also remind yourself, hey, I know more than they do.
Who you can be, who you are, and who you can become, and what you have become. So all the questions that you've shared are so powerful. And that is one of the reasons where all of our programs, as I'm coaching people, being in the same industry as you of transformation, where we want to help people transform, where when you see somebody fulfill their dreams and see them achieve their success, it's so rewarding and fulfilling that there's nothing else that brings us that joy.
That is the truth. That is the truth.
Absolutely.
And can I add one more? Can I add one more thing?
Go ahead.
I wrote a book. I wrote a book before this book. I wrote a book 10 years ago that really captured the seminar that I knew helped people to be excellent speakers and also reduce their speaking fear. But what I noticed is in the last 2 years, I've noticed a lot of goofy people are starting to take over this world. And I thought, wait a second, I know there are more good people than the goofballs that are so loud and able to capture people's attention. I know how to help these people speak up. They're probably not speaking up because of the classically biggest problem, which is speaking fear. And I fixed that. So I wrote a book, not an academic book, but a very easy to read, easy to absorb book on how to be an excellent speaker, but particularly how to stop, not cover, not ignore, but literally erase the public speaking fear, erase the fear thoughts and the tormenting thoughts in your head. And I'm going to give that to the world. It's a parable, so it's told as in a story, but you know what? I don't like to learn from books that are stories, So what I did was at the end of each chapter, I summarized the whole entire chapter in an outline and then made a separate category, Mr. Bear Speaks Without Fear, for the public speaking fear fixes. It has 45 tips of public speaking fear. It's really superb, and it really is changing the world.
Well, fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. And here's the thing, folks. Yeah, I appreciate that. Here's the thing, folks. It is about the person that you are. And knowing that failing forward is one of the best things that you can do, because if you don't fail, you're not going to learn. And failure is the fertilizer to your success. The faster you fail, the faster you know what you're not good at, what you don't want, and you continue towards the journey of your success. And as Reesa said, she has those tips to get over those public speaking fear. And it's about how do you learn? How do you create that unstoppable mindset where you are learning from podcasts, books? So continue learning. So we talked about speaking off the cuff, some great tips there. Let me ask you this. What would you say that sometimes, especially I've done a lot of keynote speaking and speaking as well, and to me, when I speak in person, the power to it is so much more because you're feeding off the audience. There's that relationship that you have built. And of course, sometimes I've had where I've fallen flat on my face, where there's been deadpan faces and there's no relationship at all. So let's talk about like two different things. So, one scenario, let's talk about in person speaking and then we'll come back to offline. In person speaking, in one, your audience is sustaining your energy. And in the second case, not sustaining your energy. What can people do in both instances?
Let's first talk about just speaking at regular meetings at work, because if you are building yourself up to the larger conventions, then imagine that every time you speak at work, you're really speaking at a large convention. So you start desensitizing yourself for that. One, obviously, come in prepared with your outline notes. Don't ever write out your notes, and don't memorize your talk. Memorize the opener and close only. Make them short so they're easy to remember. From then on, look at the next bullet and speak. When it's working at work, you know it. People are asking questions, they're looking at you. When it's not working at work, many people think, oh, I'm losing their attention. Let me repeat, which is not a good idea. Instead, as soon as you realize, oh, I'm losing their attention, stop and say, I want this to be valuable today. What questions do you have? What parts would you like me to explain better? Or what's going on? And they will tell you, at least one person will, they'll say, well, we kind of know this. We want to hear this. And then you speak on that. Sure, it's an impromptu speech, but it is your area of expertise. And you can always say, oh, let me find that out for you. I'll get back to you. And the point is that people will like you even more that you stopped and so sincerely want to help them. Now, if you are a techie and you don't know how to talk to non-technicals, learn how. And if you speak too quickly, slow down. If someone, I guess this is the last thing I want to say on that. If someone has said to you in the last 6 months, would you speak slower or would you speak louder? They're saying, I want to hear what you have to say, but you have to help me. So instead of speaking the way you like to speak to the way they like you to speak. And the biggest tip of all for people who, even for people who speak English as a second language, is one, to slow down, speak clearly. But the big takeaway is this, and do this starting in the next minute, is to say each word completely. Now, I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and in Baltimore, Maryland, no one ever says a final consonant. Everyone says kind of half the word. When I was 12 years old, I met these other young women from another city. We were in the same club, and they spoke differently. And I went, oh, you can choose how you speak. And from that day on, I said each word completely. I promise you, if you have a regional accent, or if you just think that you want to upgrade how people perceive you, when you speak with very clear, in fact, perfect articulation, then you will be shocked how much more you will hold attention. So when people aren't following you, check yourself and make sure that you've been speaking clearly, and also check into, am I giving you what you want? People really like it when you check in and show them, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to be perfect. I'm here to help you. It's really powerful.
Yeah, definitely. That is powerful, as you mentioned. And also, I want to go back to the initial question that sometimes what happens is you start out very strong. You make that connection with your audience, and then you find you're losing them. So I love what you said, Reesa, is that go ahead and ask them, what would you like to listen?
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
would you like to learn about? And they will let you know. So,
Mm-hmm.
some great ways to keep the momentum going and forming that connection. Because at the end of the day, remember you are there to serve them. And when you come from that place of intention, you are going to forget about those fears. As you were mentioning earlier, Reesa,
Mm-hmm.
what are they going to think about me? Gosh, I will look stupid. So let's continue the conversation okay, so we talked about a disinterested audience. What if the audience is hostile?
Ooh, I hope you know it before you show up. So here's what I do that I suggest. And I have it's very elaborate in my book. I don't want to be pitching the book, but it really covers everything. And one thing is, what are the most awful questions that I might get? Because pretty much people that you work with, they know, oh gosh, I hope they don't ask me this. You can even say to your team and colleagues, what are the worst questions they could ask? Because everyone knows the weak parts and the things that people are kind of tentative about, even about changing something. And write your talk to answer that. So anticipate the objections they're going to have and make perhaps those the main points. You might say, today I'm going to talk about the new software that we're considering doing here. Let me tell you some things that I've thought about. First, I thought, well, what if, and I ask the question that I know that most people in the room are thinking, and I make the whole talk about that question, and then I say what the truth is about it. And by the end, people pretty much don't have much to ask you. And if they do, you can't anticipate every question, as I said before, but you just do the best you can. And if you speak slowly, you give your brain a chance to give you some ideas.
Absolutely. So a lot of time people are talking about, if my content is good, I'm good. I do not have to worry about delivery. So there's been an age-old debate about this. What's more important? What are your thoughts on it?
You notice how there are some people that after 5 minutes you go, this person is saying nothing, but they get a standing ovation because they were dynamic and they were exciting and they use quotations and all kinds of things that aren't even related. And they pretty much manipulated people. Now here you are, someone who actually has content, but no one's listening to you. So let's see, what is the disconnect there? It turns out that how you speak is equally and perhaps more important than your content. Now, this is not controversial because no one will hear your content unless you can hold their attention.
Very true. So we have talked about some of the forms of delivery is how do you articulate? What about body language?
I would say that in person, keep your arms above the waist. Be careful about doing repetitious movements. The best thing of all is to watch yourself when you're with your friends because you're not thinking about your body language. And naturally and spontaneously, you will see that your hands act out real words. You say, oh, it was such a huge problem, or it was just a little bit of effort, but a lot of return, or we went way over there, or it was pretty close. You act out things with your hands. Now, with some groups, you can just do exactly that. With certain groups that are more conservative, don't do as much. But the point is, the person to teach you what to do with your hands is you. So study yourself when you're with your friends. On Zoom, be careful. You can see that so much is too distracting. So I try to be careful to keep my hands away from the camera's view. And if I'm going to say something, I try very hard to remember to do it slowly. It's a little bit of effort for a lot of return, and make sure you're within the camera's view. But pretty much on Zoom, you're not going to use as much body language. And if you have to sit on your hands to stop using them, do whatever works. Whatever works is what you should do.
Mm-hmm. So we have talked quite a bit about in-person speaking. Give us tips around Zoom or
With
any other
Zoom-
online speaking, basically.
Oh, absolutely. Online, first of all, put your camera on. You're going to have a much better career and be promoted more because people can see you and they feel connected with you. When someone else is talking, make your face match what they're saying. I said have your body language be congruent with what you are saying. But if you want people to like you sooner, when you first meet people, if you want to establish rapport more quickly, make your face match what they are saying. I've seen people listen like this. Oh, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Oh. And I've seen other people listen like this. No one knows if you're listening. No one knows if you care. So if you care about it. So make your face match, especially when it's your bosses and people in power speaking, because they see you're getting it, you're listening, you're paying attention. Don't overdo it, but react to them. Secondly, when you're on camera, as soon as the camera comes on, have a smile on your face. When I came on today, I already showed up with a smile on my face. I've noticed on television interviews everywhere else that people are like this. And then they say, hello, welcome. And they go, oh, hi, it's so good to, Oh, for heaven's sake. You're on stage when you're on Zoom. Make sure that you are conscious of how you look. What is your background? Don't let your ceiling fan and lights distract them. Put some books under your laptop or your camera. The first impression is a big impression. So be conscious of it, work on it, and when it's your turn to speak, use your notes. Look only at the people, your group, there's like the top 10 or 20% who love everything you say, and they're going to listen to what you say. There's that middle group, maybe the 60% that you've won over or you will win over in this speech. Then they're the lower 20%. Don't look at them because they're the ones who are trying to, make up for their own mediocrity, and they're trying to, ask you dumb questions, but only when everyone else is listening. So, I'm very, very friendly to the lower 20% because they're the ones who sabotage you at work. But I want you to look for the feedback from people who you respect. And if you just are too distracted by people looking at you, take a big sheet of paper and cover your screen, because you're only speaking to the camera anyway when you're on Zoom. And then move the sheet away when you have to look at people.
So one of the things that, those are very valuable tips. One of the things that most public speaking teachers or any gurus out there say that, think about as you're preparing your speech, what do you want your audiences to take away from that? Or how do you want your audience to implement an action in their lives? So can you expand on that?
You have completely hit on them. That is, think ahead of time and think, all right, who's going to be there? And when I'm finished, what is it that I want them to do? What is my goal of being there for this talk? And then write your talk, write some bullets, or I use a mind map a lot of the time. Write what will influence them. You already know what would influence you on your topic, but you're not writing and not speaking to yourself. You're speaking to them. So write your talk to their heads and their thinking. That's how you persuade people. That's attention.
And persuading from a place of integrity. I like that. So in your speaking,
of course,
who has inspired you?
Oh, heavens. Who has inspired me? Actually, let me tell you something better than who has inspired me. I like TED Talks. There's certain people I like. And when I see someone I like, I to imitate them and copy them. But this is what I suggest for your listeners. And that is, when you go and watch TED Talks or you see someone that you like to speak, analyze what they're doing. Watch it after one sentence, stop it, and write down what was the key point and kind of outline their talk. So just listen to their talk and first outline it. Then play it back maybe one sentence at a time and imitate how they used their voice. Because they might say, there's several things I want you to know about public speaking fear and how to overcome it. Or they might say, several things that I want you to know about public speaking fear and how to overcome it. Can you see that the delivery really brings the message more to people? And that's what I suggest you do, is you find people that you admire and you imitate them. It's legitimate. When Oprah Winfrey first started to be a news person, the only person she saw that was a woman in news was Barbara Walters. And for the first 6 years, she imitated Barbara Walters. And one time she made a mistake and she laughed at herself. And that's when she merged the professional behavior that she was using with her own personality. And that's who you see today. Find anything you can to help yourself. Find a role model, imitate them, but be prepared also.
Mm-hmm. I really like the story of Oprah. And from that, what is showing up for me is that learn from others and yet merge it with yourself, with who you are, and make it your own to be authentic.
Yes.
Because when you're authentic, you are going to be able to connect with people at a deeper level, form those meaningful connections, And as we were talking about, what is it that audience going to take away? They will take away your sincerity. They will take away what you came up for them. And that's what will lay the seed of transformation. Now, is the seed going to take root? We don't know. But your job is to go ahead and share your expertise and experience in such a way that throwing those seeds out there, because you never know where it will take root. So, how can people connect with you? And what are some final tips that you'd like to give to our audience?
I would say that if you're interested in becoming a speaker that is as good as any speaker you've ever seen, if you admire other people and go, how do they do that? There's certain people that when they speak at a meeting, everyone looks at them and everyone stays looking at them the whole time they speak. And if you're wondering, how do they do that? Mr. Bear Speaks Without Fear, the easiest way to learn the hardest subject, public speaking, teaches you how to be a speaker that captures attention, transfers information, and really can make a difference in people's lives. But the other part of it is that it has 45 tips on how to stop speaking fear, because even confident speakers have occasional speaking fear. But I'll tell you this, fear comes secondary. The first thing that happens is some thoughts that aren't true, that are tormenting you. Most people can relate to that. And if you want to learn how to stop those thoughts from tormenting you and be free of them, this book does it. I'm really proud of it. It guarantees that you will become a confident public speaker. Get any book, watch any YouTube, get help, because it's not in your DNA to speak the way you do. It is a learnable skill. Help yourself move up in your world.
Fantastic. And where can people connect with you?
My website is confident with a T, confidentspeaking.com. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Reesa Woolf. Imagine a wolf eating a Reese's peanut butter cup. And if you type in Reesa Woolf, I know my mother would be so proud. You can find me all over. I'm all over the place. So just, and in the chat here, if it shows up on the screening, it has a link to me and it has a link to Mr. Bear Speaks Without Fear.
Very powerful. Any last thoughts?
Here's the deal. You will never hear me say, and I never will say, you have to be confident. Confidence comes and goes. Can't depend on confidence, but I'll tell you what I can depend on. I can turn a switch. I can say, look scared, look confident, look scared, look confident. Oh, you know how to turn on looking confident? Look confident when you speak. Rehearse a little bit ahead. The first time through, you're not going to be very good. Show them the fifth time that you rehearse. Have that be the one in front of real people. Because you might want to throw up the whole time. No one will know it. They're only there for your content. When you look confident, you're saying, this is good information. It doesn't matter what you're thinking. Just help people.
And that's the most powerful thing that I believe in too, is that when you shift that attention from yourself to others, and if you just have that intention, how am I going to help my audience?
Exactly.
Or how am I going to help my team members? Doesn't matter whether you're in a meeting with your boss or with your colleagues. If you help them succeed, they will help you succeed.
That is the key to success. Help others.
Well, thank you for sharing, and thank you for coming on our show, Reesa. Very valuable tips. And
My
listeners,
pleasure.
Absolutely. And listeners, thank you so much for being part of our family and sharing your stories and reaching out to us as to what you would like to hear. I cannot thank you enough for that. Please continue sharing with us how we can make your lives. We can provide you the skill sets, how we can provide you new perspectives that will help you live the life that you deserve. And you can help others in turn as well. So thank you for being part of our family. And thank you, Juan, for making all the technicalities happen, because without you, the show would not be possible. So, folks, be well and take care until next time.
Thank you for being part of Beyond Confidence with your host, Divya Parekh. We hope you have learned more about how to start living the life you want. Each week on Beyond Confidence, you hear stories of real people who have experienced growth by overcoming their fears and building meaningful relationships. During Beyond Confidence, Divya Parekh shares what happened to her when she stepped out of her comfort zone to work directly with people across the globe. She not only coaches people how to form heart connections, but also transform relationships to mutually beneficial partnerships as they strive to live the life they want. If you are ready to live the life you want and leverage your strengths, learn more at www.divyaparekh.com. And you can connect with Divya at contact@divyaparekh.com. We look forward to you joining us next week.